Hi, everybody. Welcome to FNS Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, and I'm back in the basement along with my co-host and teenage son, Jackson. Say hello, Jack.
Hi, I'm feeling great.
Yeah, he is fighting a cold this weekend, unfortunately. But we did watch last night's AEW Full Gear, and
had to.
It was quite a show, so we thought we would get down here today and talk about it for a little bit.
Yep.
And post it as like a bonus episode. So thank you for joining us. If you're not aware of us, if you just stumbled across us somehow, we normally do a podcast every Saturday where we talk about NXT, AEW Dynamite, Impact Wrestling, some wrestling trivia, some wrestling figure updates, some news and rumors, and whatever else we feel like talking about. We're up to, it'll be episode 70 coming up this week, so we'd appreciate any extra listens if you'd like to check that out. If you'd like to contact us, it's fnswrestling@gmail.com. FNS_wrestling_podcast on Instagram, or you can leave a comment in the YouTubes, and I will get back to anybody that reaches out to us. What were you gesturing to me during that? I have no idea what you were saying. Oh,
TP.
Okay. Your nose is running?
Yes.
Signaling me and pointing at things as I'm doing the intro. But I powered through it. Look at that perseverance. Excellent.
If that's what we're calling it.
Well, do you have any updates since we were down here yesterday for the listeners, our legions and legions of listeners?
I watched Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, you're working your way through because
that was good. Yeah, actually, I really like that. The first Spider-Man was okay.
Yep.
I think Tobey Maguire kind of sucks, actually.
Wow.
People are they rave about him, and then I'm just like, no.
And
then Spider-Man 3, people always say that one's like not good because they crammed 3 villains into one.
Right.
Although it's also kind of Harry Osborn's redemption arc, and I actually thought that movie was pretty good too. And then I'm going to start The Amazing Spider-Man tomorrow, aka TASM.
Because you're trying to get them all done before the new one?
Yeah, or at least before the trailer, because I think the previous 2 Spider-Man, which is Garfield and Tobey Maguire, will be in the first official trailer for the movie, because we only have a teaser.
Nice.
Which will be on Tuesday, so I'm going to watch all the movies. I've already seen, because it's weird, only the first Spider-Man movies for both of the different old ones are on Netflix,
right.
So then I had to find the other ones on a website.
Nice. Nefarious means.
Yes, sometimes the ends justify the means.
Sometimes, yeah. Well, I guess we should wrap up superhero talk and move into talking about some wrestling, which is AEW's Full Gear from 2021. So, you did not check out the pre-show, right? You were doing other things?
No. I think I was actually watching Spider-Man 2.
I only watched the match that was on it, which was Sheeta and Thunder Rosa taking on Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose. So I
assume they also had an exciting kickoff panel, right?
I don't even remember. I didn't see. I'm sure they did. But this match, I thought it was a pretty fun match. I didn't really write down any highlights. I did for all the other matches, but I was just getting warmed up for this one. It was pretty entertaining. Like, nothing amazing, but a fun enough pre-show match. I didn't really love the finish. It was basically Sheeta rolling up Nyla Rose for the win, which wasn't. I was hoping Sheeta would be booked a little stronger, but I guess she picked up the pin over Nyla Rose, so that's not nothing, as they say.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was like a decent match on a pre-show. Nothing exceptional, but I don't really expect that on a pre-show anyway, so I thought it was fine.
Right.
Then we get to the show proper, and what did you think? Did you want to talk about the set or anything like that you liked,
I thought
didn't
the
like?
set was pretty good. They tend to do the same, like Full Gear is one of the ones where they do a different one,
right,
compared to Dynamite. But I wish that, I don't know, they would change it up more, or like I wish maybe Rampage and Dynamite had different sets, or like Double or Nothing usually has the same set as the Dynamite,
right,
but then they just add like the poker chips or whatnot. But this one was cool. They had like 2 Titantrons on either side, then they had like a vertical rectangular Tron in the middle, and then they had like the scaffolding with gears on it, and then those acted as the heel face tunnels, which is pretty cool. And then they had a bit of an LED ramp. I wish it had gone to the ring apron, but I think they usually do that for Revolution.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool as well. So definitely just looked a little bit different. The crowd was packed and hyped for this show, obviously. So let's get into it. The opener, I was a little surprised by the choice of opener. We're going to get Darby Allin taking on MJF.
Right, definitely not what I would have predicted for the opener.
No, and we talked about it on our show the last couple weeks. This is for some reason, because I like both of these talents, but I just wasn't super hyped for this match for some reason. The build for it just didn't connect with me a little bit better this last week. I kind of got into it a little bit, but Not one of the matches I was really looking forward to on this show, but sometimes that leads you to being pleasantly surprised, right? So let's see what happened here. I didn't go move for move, just some kind of highlights for each of the matches and things that were of interest as we go through.
Right.
So I really got into this match even just after the first few minutes because there was lots of action to basically a stalemate, right? And I think it was MJF's kind of sitting in the corner and Allen's across the ring, and they sort of just take a minute to let the crowd, because they're already into this match as well, so just sort of lets the crowd acknowledge each of them.
Everyone really loves Darby, and everyone hates MJF.
Yeah, so that's part of this dynamic,
It's a perfect storm.
Yep, you have such a strong heel and then a baby face the crowd loves, so the crowd is sort of showering them with appreciation after just a couple minutes here. Then some highlights a little bit later. There was an awesome suicide dive by Darby Allin, and I am very critical of suicide dives. A lot of them don't look good, and everybody does them. But his is just crazy fast, and the impact looked awesome. And the camera angle, it was kind of like, I think it was behind MJF, and sort of you just suddenly see Darby Allin coming at you, right? And it looked really cool. Then there was Darby misses a coffin drop, lands on the apron that looked kind of painful. Then there was just a repeated attack on Darby Allin's back, right, by MJF, including like backbreakers and things that where he's selling his own knee after hitting the backbreaker so hard.
Funny.
I thought that was a nice touch, and he kind of sells that knee throughout after that, right? MJF has a top rope pile driver countered by Allin into a cutter. You have MJF then counters a code red into a really nice power bomb that I thought was cool. There was a tombstone by MJF on the apron that looked nice. Then in a nice callback to the exact opposite counter before, we have a power bomb from MJF is countered by Allin into a code red, which I thought was a cool thing to include because the reverse had just happened a few minutes before. We do get a coffin drop to MJF from the top rope onto the floor. MJF's lying on the floor below, so that was pretty cool. Then it's back in the ring, and MJF gets his knees up on the coffin drop there. So Sting makes an appearance here, but it was limited, so I figured you'd be okay with that. And basically, he's just fighting Spears and Wardlow on the ramp to stop them from interfering.
Boy, do they look stupid getting their asses kicked by an old man.
Yeah, I guess it didn't last too long, though. So
especially when one of them is big muscly boy.
Right. MJF then tries to get Darby disqualified. He sort of grabs Darby's skateboard from ringside, hands it to Darby, and sort of begs him to hit him with it, hoping to win by DQ, obviously. But he does not take that opportunity. The referee gets the skateboard and goes to get rid of it. So as he's sort of dumping it through the ropes and obviously has his back turned to what's going on in the ring, sneaky MJF pulls the diamond ring out of his trunks, right? Because I'd noticed a couple times he was adjusting his trunks early in the match. Like, what is he doing? But I guess that's what he was doing. And he uses the diamond ring to basically knock out Darby Allin. And then in what I thought was a really nice touch, right? He uses a side headlock takedown to get the 3 count and win this match. So that was sort of a callback too, because didn't he say, like, I could beat you with just a headlock in one of his promos?
And he had been doing that repeatedly in the match.
Right. So I honestly was pretty blown away by this match. I thought it was fantastic. It wasn't one that I was really looking forward to, as I said, but I mean, I was into this right off the bat, and it was just like, just have a perfect heel. You have an amazing baby face, and just the storyline of he's trying to convince Darby Allin to just get disqualified, right? And he's also trying to force Allin at the same time to wrestle a technical match because he doesn't think that benefits him. And then finally, I guess it looks like he can't win any other way. So he does the Healy thing and cheats, which completely made sense. I liked the finish of this. I pretty much liked everything through this. If I were going like a star rating, this for me was like a 4.5 star match. And I'm not easy to get a high mark from. I thought this match was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought this was great. They definitely benefited from that like superb face heel dynamic,
and
like,
the crowd was just rabid for this as well.
The action was great too. I think they both I liked one of the moments I liked too was when, so after hitting a coffin drop to the outside, MJF did get the knees up on the coffin drop.
Yes.
And then it ended up applying to both of their injuries, right? With MJF's knee constantly aggravating him, and then that also really hurts Darby's back too. So I thought that was really cool. I thought the finish was awesome as well. It was really good. Yeah, like better than it had any right to be. I think it definitely is telling of like these guys are two of the pillows.
These are the pillars, and they gave them a ton of time. Like I didn't go back.
Actually, they're the pillows of AEW.
The pillows, that's right.
Yes, JR, I believe.
If you want to pull up and look up the match times, I'm curious I'm talking, because this one felt. I was going to say it felt long, but that's not the case.
It did kind of feel
It felt
long.
like it got a lot of time, but it didn't feel long. I was right into it the whole time.
Yeah.
No, I thought
it was great. Yeah, it was a match of the night contender.
And two guys in their 20s.
Maybe match of the year contender, actually.
Two guys, yeah, it'd be. I could see it being like an honorable mention. I assume I'll like 3 or 4 matches better than this, but like this was a fantastic.
Yeah,
match.
but it depends on how hard pressed we are, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, just two young guys who this company, in theory, should have for decades. To sort of, this could be like an ongoing thing they can come back to as we go forward. But just a fantastic start to this show. We then go to what I thought might have been the opener, and that is the Tag Team Championship match between FTR and the Lucha Brothers. Any comments on anyone's ring gear, anything like that?
The Lucha Brothers had like a camo, gold and camo gear,
Yes.
so that's pretty nice. Because Tribute to the Troops was today, I think.
Yes.
WWE's thing, so I guess that's them doing the Tribute to the Troops. And then FTR had like different trunks, I think, but they still had the Mexico US
Right.
knee pads. So that was cool. And Penta always looks cool.
Yeah, and there was lots of, speaking of tributes, lots of homages to Eddie Guerrero in this, which I found out it was 16 years to the day that he died.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, because there's like a lot of this. I think there was another tribute in another match too.
Oh yeah, it was all over the place in this show. I felt like there was several. So this one was pretty much what you would expect. I was really looking forward to this one. Two just of my favorite tag teams in a company that like loves and respects tag teams, which is refreshing, right, from some other companies we know. So within this one, we see an assisted cannonball by the Lucha Brothers to both of the FTR guys kind of stacked up in the corner. We get stereo submissions applied by the Lucha Brothers. Do you remember specifically what that was? They were kind of piled on top of each other, because you described it in the moment, but I didn't bother to write it down.
I do not.
It was a something with a something and a something, but I don't remember what it was. I think there was like a camel clutch and some other.
Oh, right.
Wasn't it?
No, I forgot.
Anyways, then there's early on some crazy rope walking stuff by Phoenix where they try and knock him off, and then he kind of straddles the top rope, bounces off the second rope, back up to the top rope. Just stuff that people shouldn't be able to do, as usual, from him. A little bit later, Tully causes a distraction, and Penta gets pulled off the ropes and lands throat first across the top rope. We get a double catapult into the second rope by FTR to Penta that looked pretty painful. Rolling double cutter by Phoenix. Phoenix then does his standard move where he just runs across the top rope and kicks, like punts Dax on the way by, which I'll never get tired of seeing.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Because I don't know anyone else that does that. Like, just, unless they're in a knuckle lock with someone, right? But he just literally, no assistance, runs across the top rope and kicks a guy. We get the kick out sends Dax and Phoenix into a kick out later sends Dax, Dax kicks out, sends Phoenix into a belt shot from Cash, who had grabbed the belt at ringside, right? And that was a really believable near fall by the
Considering that's how they kind of won the titles.
Exactly. And they're just cheaters.
The AAA tag titles, sorry.
That's what they do. We get an assisted back suplex by FTR to counter a Phoenix cutter. Tully then a little bit later grabs Pentagon's foot, taunting the Three Amigos attempted by Dax, and the crowd is furious because it's a heel doing it, so they don't really appreciate it. But then that creates the opportunity for Penta, who the crowd does love. He does hit the Three Amigos, and then a frog splash immediately after by Phoenix gets a near fall. We get a spiked pile driver by FTR for a near fall after Dax flips Phoenix around. Remember, it was like he kind of quickly grabbed him out of the corner and flipped him in position for the pile driver, and we're like, whoa, that was cool. And then we get a Fear Factor crossbody to both of FTR. So basically, it sets up for it's the package pile driver, right? And then Phoenix comes off the top, stomps on that, and then springboards off that stomp to hit a crossbody to the other person. So that was a bit ridiculous as well. Only Phoenix really does stuff like this.
Right.
Then we get a Killer Bees moment I was telling you. I don't think you're familiar with them, where FTR put on their... What was there? The
Super Ranas.
Right, the Super Ranas. They put on their Super Ranas mask, and they sort of do they're kind of doing like the twin magic kind of thing. The ref can't tell which is which. So I think it was Cash goes for a pinfall with his feet up on the ropes, but the ref catches him. And then the Lucha Brothers just kind of suddenly hit their assisted pile driver for the win, kind of out of nowhere. And that would be probably my only complaint about this match, I think. But I think it got hurt a little bit for me too by having to follow the blistering opener, because the crowd honestly took a while to get their energy back for this match, because they were just already probably exhausted from that first match. But they did really start to get back into this for the second half and beyond. I thought it was an excellent match, really picked up in the second half. My complaint is that the finish kind of felt disjointed to me. Like it didn't fit somehow. It just, I don't know what it was, but it was, I wasn't happy with the finish, but not enough that it detracted too much from this match. Everything else up to that finish was pretty much fantastic. Really cool contrast in styles. Obviously, you've got the high flyers and then the opposite of that in FTR. We got a bunch of cool spots, some believable near falls, and another like really good babyface and heel dynamic, right? Which is, it just helps everything. Also, without really knowing what the outcome was going to be, we picked the Lucha Brothers, obviously, and we should revisit our picks, by the way.
Yeah.
But I wasn't that confident that they were going to win.
Yeah.
I thought everybody looked good in this. It's great, again, to see a company that loves and respects tag team wrestling. And at this point, I was saying we're 2 for 2 in standout matches because I thought this was awesome as well. You?
So we both picked the pre-show and the opener, right? So
of course we did.
2-2.
We're geniuses.
Me.
Yeah.
Genius.
So what did you think of this match?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, like you said, I think the opener definitely doesn't do this any favors.
Right.
But I thought, like, considering how they into it they were for the opener, they still held the energy pretty good. The crowd did.
Yeah, they rebounded quickly.
I think this was pretty good. I mean, I think there might have been like a slightly higher gear these teams could have gone into.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe we do get a rematch after that finish. The finish was a little disjointed, but
right.
I mean,
it was strange.
I don't mind it because I mean it serves a purpose, I assume.
It just felt like it didn't fit. Like you're building a jigsaw puzzle and you're pounding a piece that doesn't actually fit in that spot into that spot. I don't even know what it was about it, but it just felt weird to me. But otherwise great.
But I thought there were some great near falls. I think a great like clash of styles.
Yes.
Both of these teams are super talented, so it was good. I think it could have been a little better, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yep. We then move on to the Eliminator Tournament final match, which has Bryan so far undefeated in AEW,
Bryan
right?
Danielson.
Sorry, I even wrote Daniel Bryan.
I saw.
I'm a bad person. He's taking on
man.
the sort of dominant Miro who replaced Moxley in this tournament after Moxley
Don't you
sort of
mean
left
Rusev?
for rehab. Yeah, it's Daniel Bryan versus Rusev. No, it is not. So this match already has stakes because it is for the Eliminator final, which gets you a title shot, right?
But it's an interesting match by itself.
And they sort of added to it that Danielson has never defeated Miro in any incarnation of either of their characters, right?
Which
Obviously.
I don't remember any time they faced, but I assume they have. Otherwise, they wouldn't mention that.
Well, I guess it's even if they hadn't faced, it's technically true, and
but then they could say Miro's never beaten Bryan. I guess.
But they only focus on what helps them, right?
I guess so.
So Danielson early on takes a suicide dive, but right into a big punch, and then Miro suplexes him on the floor. We get JR annoyed me a little bit here. He's criticizing Aubrey's slow count because Danielson's out on the floor like one of those barely beating the count sort of thing. So he's not happy with Aubrey's count. I don't know why.
He never loves the...
He feels the need to point out like little non-realistic issues sometimes, and I don't think it helps anything other than clearly it bothers him and he feels the need to point them out, right? But I kind of annoys me. Like, we get it. It's fine. We're all...
And it's not that big of a deal.
No, it's not. We get 2 running corner kicks by Danielson, but Miro stays on his feet somehow, counters the third attempt into a Samoan drop.
Didn't we catch, that he made a Daniel Bryan mistake too?
Oh, he did, yes.
Right?
Yes,
yeah.
he did.
I
JR did,
saying,
yes.
like, you can take him out of WWE, but you can't take
right.
WWE out of him.
And he's like, I meant Bryan Danielson. They're like, we know who you meant, kind of thing. Danielson hits a running knee off the ring apron to the floor.
I thought that was pretty nice, actually.
It was. Miro counters a knee bar into a gut wrench suplex and just a nice show of strength there. Danielson then with some vicious knees and stomps. He has definitely kicked up the aggression since coming to AEW, which I think is awesome.
And I think it's warranted against someone like Miro as well.
It is. Miro does get the game over applied, but Danielson gets to the ropes and sort of escapes it, which was a nice touch because not many people do, right? Generally, you get the game over, and it's game over. No pun intended. We get the yes lock and a triangle choke that are both escaped by Miro, and the crowd is starting...
Because I guarantee he's used those before, right?
Yes.
So.
The crowd is starting to really get into this at this point. We get a really stiff kick exchange where it's about a 3-for-1, right? Daniel's kicking Miro repeatedly, and then Miro gives one kick, and Daniel sort of falls down a couple times.
Right.
Then we get a DDT off the top and a guillotine applied by Danielson, and I think it was the ref stoppage and not Miro tapping. I couldn't quite see for sure, but I think it was just the referee stopping it, which helps keep Miro a little bit stronger too if he didn't actually. It's the classic, like, he wouldn't tap out, he passed out. So Bryan Danielson maintains his undefeated streak here in AEW. He wins the Eliminator tournament,
not for long.
and he gets a championship opportunity. So I thought this was a really good match with Bryan winning. And targeting Miro's weak neck. They sort of talked about how both of them have their neck as a weak point, right? So I like that Bryan's smart enough to go to a DDT and then a guillotine. So 2 moves in succession, both targeting sort of Miro's Achilles heel, if you will. And I felt this match built as it went, and both men sort of getting multiple chances to control the action. Really entertaining match with really different styles. Obviously, Miro is just a powerhouse, and Bryan is more the technical, who's looking for whatever weakness and looking for mistakes to capitalize on. I thought Miro looked really strong in defeat, but I am wondering like where his story is going to go, right? Because he's been doing this whole dealing with his god thing and getting revenge. So I'm wondering where it's going to go from here, because his god has still forsaken him, obviously.
And I believe we both called this one as well.
We did. Excellent match, though. What did you think of it?
Yes, we did.
We did pick it, both of us. Nice.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good too. I think the kind of David Goliath contrast was nice. I really like Bryan's aggression. Like,
me too.
Having to do that to take down Miro, and I think the combination of the DDT to target the neck and then the guillotine choke, which is just a very practical maneuver. Like, I think you can use that to take down anyone.
And yet another new finishing move for Bryan.
Right. I don't think he's gone for that yet.
I don't think he has either.
Because I think the game is to be like, he's going for something else each time.
I think that is the point right now, yeah.
Right, because they were saying, like, even when he did the triangle, that, like, he did that to, it was Kingston, right? And he, like, elbowed him a bunch. Yep,
and it's that cool, like, he's such a technician that he has a million possible ways to beat you. Whatever you leave exposed, he can take advantage of.
And Miro still looked great, which I think is important here, because Miro definitely, like, he wasn't supposed to be here, but I think this still helped him a bit.
And they were put in a tough spot because they had to replace Moxley, and I guess because Miro, the story they went with was he's the highest rated person not in the tournament, right? I think is what they said.
Right.
So they put him in there,
which,
but
considering like 10 is in the tournament, that's kind of sad.
Right? Yeah, that's a good point. So they had to keep him strong because they have been presenting him so strongly lately, and I think they did a decent job of that here. So the next match we get into is the Super Click, which is going to be the Young Bucks and Adam Cole taking on Jurassic Express, which is Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy partnering up with Christian for this match. And this one started out really fast right away. We get not too far in, and Jungle Boy throws a chair into Adam Cole's face, because this is what do they call it?
Falls count anywhere.
I was going to say no DQ, but it is falls count anywhere. So Jungle Boy then counters some Bucks double teaming, ends up sitting in a chair in the middle of the ring, like looking cool. We get an inverted DDT to Cole on a chair. Luchasaurus German suplex to both Bucks at the same time. We get some trash can shots involved to Luchasaurus and other people later. Then Jungle Boy goes for his triple suicide dive, but the third one ends up being sort of a trash can put in front of him, so he dives into a trash can. Adam Cole's kicked in the head, and then they hit like the skull-crushing finale on a chair by Jurassic Express. Cole then, after that point, is just a bloody mess from here on out. He takes a Jungle Boy Hurricane Rana off the apron through a table, which was pretty nice. And then Matt Jackson hits a top rope elbow drop to Luchasaurus, who's on another part on the floor on a table. So elbow drop through the table. Christian then, I don't know if it's up on the balcony or he was up on the concourse or whatever it's called. I put in brackets jumps because he sort of just falls from above onto Nick Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I missed it, but like I know he was jumping from like, I guess
it's it wasn't that impressive,
like
honestly.
It's one of those things they always do in like.
It was a controlled fall onto people beneath him, basically, but it's fine. The crowd seemed to like it. Cole then hits like a wheelbarrow slam onto the apron, which looked pretty good. And so then we get the Young Bucks get out a bag of tacks. They put tacks in Jungle Boy's mouth as he's being held by Adam Cole. And then they do their thing where they run the ropes 1,000 times, stop to kiss Adam Cole on the cheek, and super kick Jungle Boy in the face with the tacks in his mouth.
Right, and I'm just like, that's so mean. Like, I don't know why he would do that to himself.
Yeah, I would not sign up for that treatment. But anyways, we get a tornado DDT to Nick Jackson onto a ladder that looked pretty good. Adam Cole gets slammed into a ladder.
Although it did look, it was Christian who hit the DDT, right? Because like he kind of had his feet off of the ladder first. Yes. Didn't he? But like I think the DDT still connected nicely.
It did. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I thought he might have hurt his leg on that because he kind of got his leg in the ladder as well, right? Cole gets slammed onto a ladder by Luchasaurus, and then Nick does as well. Everybody's sort of on the ramp fighting. It leads to Christian running into a Cole super kick, and Matt Jackson jumps off the ramp onto Luchasaurus below. Cole then hits a Panama Sunrise to Jungle Boy off the scaffolding onto the ramp, which was pretty cool. And then we get super kicks for all of the baby faces on the ramp, and Cole pulls out a thumbtack knee pads and hands one to the super click and keeps one for himself. Or sorry, to the Young Bucks, I guess. And we get a BTE trigger with the thumbtack knee pads to Luchasaurus.
That was so just, oh my god.
Jungle Boy has magically made the recovery and breaks up the pinfall on the ramp. Luchasaurus then does a shooting star off the ramp onto people beneath, which was pretty impressive because he is a huge man.
And I was worried you'd under rotate, but
he did not.
It was very clean.
No, he nailed it.
Yep.
Christian sets up to concerto Matt Jackson on the ramp, but Jungle Boy sort of emerges and he asks if he can do the honors. He does, and he ends up pinning Matt Jackson for the win here in this pretty crazy match. I thought this was a really good match, maybe not as strong as a couple others on this card, but a nice change of pace from the first
the other
three.
no DQ tag.
Right, this was your sort of weapons and spot fest sort of match coming up after a couple that weren't quite that way. Pretty much non-stop action from the opening bell. And for me, Extreme Rules are not always my cup of tea, but the way these guys used these standard objects, right? Because at the end of the day...
count anywhere.
Sorry. At the end of the day, it's really just tables, chairs, trash cans. They're used ladders, right? Like nothing really out of the ordinary, but the way that they use them is impressive, right? And the spots look painful and interesting. So I know people are going to complain about this as a spot fest for sure, but I have room for matches like this, especially on a pay-per-view where there's going to be other technical matches, right? Like this just followed a Bryan Danielson match, so I don't mind. It's not like the card is full of these no DQ spot fests, right? So I think there's room for this. I thought this was a really fun match. Probably my least favorite match of the show to this point, but I still would say that I really like this match because there's nothing that was terrible on this show. Not to spoil anything, but what did you think of it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I think the plunder was well done, like all of the weapon involved moves. I liked the thumbtacks stuff, whether it was the super kicking with thumbtacks in his mouth or the triple BT trigger.
Yep.
Luchasaurus shooting star press was nice. I think a lot of the way they used the stuff was pretty great, like you said.
Yes.
It was a bit of a spot fest, but I think it was good. Like, I don't think you could expect much different.
And if you paid for or are watching an AEW pay-per-view and you're angered by a spot fest, like, what are you doing
Why
here?
are you paying for it?
Why are you here?
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like this better or the tag title match, but
I like the tag title match
it's still
better.
really good.
Yep. We then go back to another tag team match, which is
Tag team wrestling.
Involves three of my favorites right now, which is Cody, not one of the three favorites, but he's fine, and Pac taking on Malachi Black. I almost called him Alistair. I'm having flashbacks to WWE, and Andrade. So this one, this match was made kind of late in the game, right? It's just they've sort of been partnered up and put in this match here. So Pac and Cody, basically, it's a little bit of neither tag team is super happy with their own partners, right? In this one, there's a little bit of blind tags and violent tags sort of things happening, which is fine.
Mostly on the babyface side.
But a little bit on both sides, to be honest.
Yeah, but I found that, like, they kind of sorted out their stuff, at least towards the end. Like, I feel like I found that the miscommunication between the heels didn't last super long.
No. At one point, Cody hits a suicide dive to Jose because, what's his last name? I forget.
Who?
The guy that accompanies
Jose?
Andrade, yeah.
Jose.
He doesn't have a last name?
They didn't give him one.
Oh, so anyways, because he got involved, so Cody hits him with a suicide dive. Then we get a Cody cutter to Pac a bit later. Asai moonsault by Pac. Arn and then fights Jose up the ramp to sort of take them out of the picture, I guess. We get a really nice tornado from the second rope out to the floor by Andrade. For a man his size, he is very graceful. Andrade suplexes Pac into the turnbuckles and then hits a split-legged moonsault. Cody is not there when Pac needs to make a tag, so Pac is a little bit angry at this point. We get a pendulum.
I mean, he is a bastard.
He is. We get a pendulum DDT to Pac on the apron by Andrade that looked pretty good. Cody then gets a hot tag and it leads to an inverted suplex off the top to Andrade. The crowd boos a Cody figure 4 to Andrade, which I thought was funny. Pac makes a blind tag, hits a 450 to Andrade as he's in Cody's figure 4 that looked pretty cool. We get Pac goes for a Fosbury flop, but I think they pulled Cody in front, right? So he ends up hitting Cody by accident. We get an awesome running boot by Black that sends Cody over the barricade into the crowd. Then a nice Poison Rana by Pac to Andrade, and he sets up, and we finally get it. He hits the beautiful Black Arrow to pick up the win here. Cash Wheeler immediately attacks Pac after the match, and we are told that Pinnacle sold FTR to Andrade for 2 weeks, which was just kind of tacked on there, right? A little bit of
I think you could just say FTR with him now.
But maybe that's what they're doing, right? Getting them away from Pinnacle, which I'm fine with. So I really enjoyed this match as well. It's kind of going to be repetitive for me on this show for a lot of it, but I think it was a level below the 4 matches that came before this, but that's not to say that this wasn't a good pay-per-view match, because I think it was. The pace for this was much more deliberate than the match before. It would pretty much have to be, because the one before this was pretty crazy. But there was some terrific wrestling going on within this match. I think Pac and Andrade at this point, we can confirm, they just have amazing chemistry together. And I was really enjoying the action between Black and Pac, because I haven't really seen that before, I don't think. So that was cool to see. Cody seemed...
Correction, we actually may have seen that once before on one of those UK things. Neville versus Tommy End, actually.
Yeah, that's probably true.
So I don't know why I remember that.
Cody seemed to be the one showcased the least here. Could be just me, good. But I'm okay with that too. And my one issue, though, I have no problem with Andrade hiring people. I kind of like that, right? Like the new school $1 Million Man or something like that. He can just pay people to be his goons. But I hate that they chose to describe it as he bought FTR. Because does FTR seem like the type of guys that would allow themselves to be bought and sold, right? Like, I don't like how that makes things look. Why not just say that they're being paid by Andrade directly? And then either MJF doesn't care, he's fine with it because he's not using them, or you could have that really annoy MJF and they could use that tension, right? And in the future for some kind of interesting story. But the fact that like FTR are just the property of MJF and he can just rent them out or sell them, I thought was not cool, because FTR, that doesn't fit their character, they would not stand for that, right? But if it was just like Andrade's paying them directly, that would make sense to me. But anyways, really like the match. I'm just nitpicking the storyline a bit. What did you think of this one?
I thought it was pretty good too. I mean, usually I don't love like odd couple tag teams, but that's more so when it's like tag title contention or long run-ish. So I think Cody and Pac, like, it made sense. And I think the little bits of dissolution between Andrade and Black, like, that makes sense because they're not like legitimately
and Pac's
a team
a bastard.
Right. And so I think like, but generally Black and Andrade work together because like they are pretty much on the same page.
Right.
And I agree. I like seeing Black versus Pac because that's the combination we haven't really gotten yet.
I would love to see them in a singles program.
Right.
Even.
We have seen Andrade versus Cody. We've definitely seen Black versus Cody, and we know we've seen Andrade versus Pac. So that's kind of the only combination left. Although I can see this ending after this, but I can also see it continuing. I think this is pretty good, but I feel like it could have been a little better. Yeah, I really liked it still.
Yeah, I thought it was good, but not up to the matches before. But this show was just loaded with quality stuff. We then move into the only women's match on this main show, which is for the AEW Women's Championship, and that is the champion Britt Baker. She's accompanied by Hayter and Reba were there, right? I think both of them. Yes. And Ty Conti,
and the guitarist from Fozzy.
Ty Conti, who came alone for this, no Anna Jay, right? Oh, yes. So Britt Baker did have her theme played live, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, so it was okay. I don't know. You okay over there?
Yes.
We need a cough button on your microphone. But anyways, so this match, again, we pretty much knew the outcome of this one. There's almost no universe where Ty Conti at this point is defeating Britt Baker, but we'll see where it goes. Conti starts out early on with some judo throws that are countered with a simple kick to the stomach, which I thought was cool. You've got her doing this technical stuff, and then Britt just like kicks her in the stomach to stop her, which was kind of funny. Butterfly suplex by Baker, fisherman's neck breaker by Baker. We get 3 running pump kicks to Baker and a top rope crossbody for 2 by Conti. We get a leaping kick to the head, a German suplex by Conti for another near fall. Neck breaker out of the corner by Baker, curb stomp by Baker, and she gets her glove from a very excited Reba. But Baker then turns around right into a stunner from Conti for another near fall. We get a really nasty looking air raid crash to Tay Conti on the ring apron. It looked very painful.
Yeah, that was nice.
We get a tie KO for a 2 count, and the crowd is now coming to life as we're getting some sustained offense here from Ty Conti. We get a gotch pile driver by Conti that surprised me. I thought that was
interesting because she went for that more than once, which I thought was kind of weird.
And I was not expecting it. Rebel a little bit later distracts the referee, and Jamie Hayter runs Conti into the ring steps to sort of kill her momentum. We get a curb stomp, but Conti still manages to avoid the lockjaw. Moonsault to the floor by Conti. DD tie for a near fall by Conti. Britt then counters another DD tie attempt into the lockjaw, but Conti is able to roll through, so Baker counters that roll through into a roll up and picks up the pinfall win here. I was pretty impressed with this match. I thought it was really good. It made Conti look like a star of the near future, right? Like maybe not at this minute. It gives Baker a quality title defense on a major pay-per-view that she sort of needs. And I'm really happy for Conti, even in a loss here. It was exactly what we said it kind of needed to be for her, right? A way for her to show that she can hang and that she's capable of being a top-tier competitor in the division. And I think that we got that. I didn't really see any sloppiness or anything awkward. Her offense looked really good. I think her kicks specifically look really strong. And then she showcased some other things I hadn't seen her do before. This match got a fair bit of time, and I didn't think there were any lulls, no glaring issues in Conti's first major opportunity in a really big match, right? And Britt Baker continues to just be an amazing heel champion and the face of this division 100%. I really enjoyed the match. I don't think it was like a 4-star match or anything, but I would say it was like a 3.5 star. I was really impressed with Conti, and I thought it was a good match. You?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good too. I think Conti got in some good offense, and I think Baker. I really like that apron move she hit.
Yes.
I think this was the perfect match for Conti to throw her hat in the name, or throw her name in the hat.
Hat in the ring.
Hat in the ring. Yeah.
There you go.
Like for title contention.
Right,
So
I agree.
I think she's a good choice if they want to loop back around on her. Like
and
her
if she keeps progressing the way she is, right? Give her another 2-3 months if she's a little bit better, even because she's gotten so much better.
Right. So
if she
I
keeps
think
that going, she could be
great,
awesome.
First try for her.
Me too. I thought it was really good. We then go to another singles match, and it is CM Punk taking on Eddie Kingston. I've absolutely loved the really simple build to this. It just stemmed from Eddie Kingston interrupting a CM Punk promo, and then it sort of escalated from there. There was an amazing segment on Rampage where they interacted, and basically it felt super real, just about Punk feeling that Kingston's a waste of potential and basically a bum, and sort of Eddie Kingston thinking that CM Punk's a narcissist and a manipulator, and et cetera, et cetera. It's funny because Eddie Kingston sort of feels about CM Punk the way I do. You know what I mean? Like, I think that Punk is an intelligent, very intelligent, savvy person who is always aware of what he is saying and is always aware that cameras are on and is a master manipulator. So I kind of feel I'm on Eddie Kingston's side in this one. But anyways, the match starts. We get an immediate hurricane by Eddie attempt, and then he sort of bites on Punk's head and hits a headbutt as the crowd is already, like, right away, they are super invested in this match. We get an exploder suplex by Kingston. Punk is then bleeding after some action out on the floor. We get a diving clothesline off the apron by Punk. And then Punk does a Cena imitation, right? He does what's the first move where he does the sit-out slam before the 5-knuckle shuffle?
The moves of doom.
Yes, he hits I don't think he did the shoulder tackles, but he did the sit-out slam, and then he started to look like he was going to do the 5-knuckle shuffle, but I think he gave the middle finger instead. And then we get another homage to Eddie Guerrero here, as Punk does the Three Amigos himself. Eddie then fires up, almost passes out after delivering a flurry of strikes, which I thought was a really nice touch too. He basically is just exhausted after just wailing on CM Punk for a little bit here. We then get a superplex by Kingston after he recovers from his exhaustion. Then a really bitter, stiff strike exchange, but Eddie Kingston is just defiant here. He taunts CM Punk, and Punk hits the GTS, but after all the damage he's taken, he just can't quite get over to the cover for this one. And then he, a little bit later, hits a second GTS, and that is definitely enough to keep Kingston down. CM Punk gets the win in this. Punk, after the match, wants to shake hands with Kingston, but Kingston refuses and sort of staggers his way up the ramp. This match didn't get as much time as some of the other ones, but it was a really intense physical battle with some really good selling. Eddie Kingston is just the master of creating drama, and he just has this special connection with the crowd.
I even liked him busting open Punk. I think that was a nice touch.
Yep, and the crowd just loves this guy, even as taking on CM Punk, right? They still love Eddie. Punk winning this was no surprise. We both picked this one as well.
Yep.
But Eddie Kingston made the most of his opportunity, and losses do not hurt this guy whatsoever. He's already the underdog, So losses just sort of accentuate that part of his character, right? And it did take 2 GTSs to beat him, so that's keeping him looking kind of strong, I guess. I don't think this was a masterpiece, but I thought this was a really good match as well. I quite liked it. What about you?
Yeah, I thought it was really nice, like another slugfest kind of match for
Yeah.
Kingston, but I thought it was really cool. I like Kingston like going after Punk to like make him bleed and whatnot, because like that did drive home like Kingston's mission was to beat Punk up and
Yes.
not win, which
Yes.
did happen
right.
here. And I like 2 GTSs, like that really helps Kingston. They're like really putting him away.
Yep. We then move into, I don't think you disagree with me, the low point of this show. Both in build leading up to it and sort of in execution. Yeah.
Yes.
So that is the multi-man match between the Inner Circle and America's Top Team. Will you run down which were the members for each team? Because I didn't write it down. And I needed a break for a second.
Men of the Year, Stupid Dan Lambert, Junior Dos Santos, and I want to say it was Andre Arlovsky, but
Yeah.
I don't know what his
Orlovsky, anyways, whatever it is. And for Inner Circle?
The entire group.
Everybody. So I'd kind of forgotten about this match at this point in the show, and then my instinct was to be a little bit disappointed when
It was funny.
was
I
reminded.
was like, I think it was during the women's match. I was like,
It was.
So I knew there was the 2 matches left. I knew there was this and the main event left. I was like, I feel like I'm forgetting something. I was like, oh, Punk Kingston.
Right. So the build to this match has been a big miss for me. It's been a regular segment on Dynamite that I have not enjoyed.
Yeah. It's one of the rare misses. We've said that before.
Yes. So one of my smart alecky comments is, I know that in every multi-man street fight I've been in my lifetime, we patiently waited for our turn.
They started out with it starts out as a normal tag match, which really A, confused me, B, annoyed me.
Right.
Because that's just not a street fight. It's working.
It's a street fight, but we're gonna have regular tags.
And why would you even want to or feel required to abide to the rules?
Right, because there is no reason to, right?
Even if you're not legal, just why don't you just interfere right away and attack the other person?
Right.
What's stopping you?
So that seemed a bit silly that they were actually honoring the tags and stuff.
That reminds me. Another
this.
thing that annoyed me is Christian and Jungle Boy. I think even Luchasaurus wore street gear in the False Claimer match, even though this is the street fight.
Right. So this is supposed to be the street gear. And Inner Circle had they always have themed gear in their group matches, right? So it was like camo and black, I think, this time. They all had similar stuff on for this one as well. They tend to do matching stuff. Anyways.
Right.
So Scorpio Sky takes a vertical suplex in this one after he's handed between Ortiz. So he starts the vertical suplex, hands him to Hager, who finishes it. Orlovsky hits a Samoan drop to Hager, as some of the MMA guys tried a couple moves here. Dos Santos hits a power slam and then a delayed vertical with a standing moonsault that wasn't the cleanest standing moonsault, but full marks for doing a standing moonsault as a non-wrestler. Things then break down. Lambert's left all alone with the Inner Circle, obviously, and he's basically
that had to happen.
Hysterical and overreacting, as he tends to do. Then we get some introduction of some non-standard weapons as Ethan Page hits Jericho with the hockey stick. Hager jumps off the top rope.
I thought this was a Minneapolis street fight, not a Canadian street fight. Stereotypes.
Minneapolis loved the hockey too, though. Minnesota's big for hockey, so it's acceptable. Hager jumps off the top rope onto everybody on the floor. We get all kinds of foreign objects now are outside the ring. Page is in a garbage can getting kicked by Santana and Ortiz, and then they hit it with a hockey stick in a pretty standard spot at this point. I've seen it a lot. Double submission.
Yeah, you hit the trash can something else. Remember in the light dough match,
yes.
Kingston just obliterated Archer's head in the trash can with a kendo stick?
Yes, which now that Archer's out with a concussion sounds even worse. But we get a double submission applied by Santana and Ortiz to both of the Men of the Year. And then Hager hits guys with a toaster. Jericho hits people with a water ski. We get a double springboard cutter by Sammy to Santana and Ortiz. Dos Santos gets superplexed by, or was it superplexed? I think it was, by Santana and Ortiz.
Yes, it was. I was going to say I don't remember, but then as you said it was them, I remember.
In one of the miscommunications in this, Ortiz has to help position one of the MMA guys. I forget who it was, because he's holding Ortiz, and Ortiz is tapping him and telling him he needs to move back further from the corner. He does, because he has no idea where to be or how to time what's going on here. So Ortiz is clearly helping him out. Sammy hits a senton off of that was a huge ladder, man.
Yeah.
Huge ladder. So he sets it up on the floor.
Jeff Hardy
hits a senton and crashes Ethan Page through a table. We get an Ego's Edge to Ortiz on the floor that looked pretty good. It's basically the border toss that Hernandez does, or what do you call it? The Razor's Edge. He sort of chucks you, though, puts you in a Razor's Edge and throws you. And then Baron Von Raschke, who they had shown us,
crucifix.
Was in the crowd earlier. They acknowledged him there.
I only know him because Encyclopedia.
He puts the claw on Ethan Page. Then Ortiz uses a security guard to get on all fours and hits a diving somersault over the barricade to somebody, I forget who it was. Jericho is then supposed to have his lion salt interrupted by Dos Santos. This part made me laugh. But Dos Santos is nowhere to be found. So Jericho is literally standing on the second rope as instead of springboarding off of it and calling Dos Santos over. You can hear him calling him over to get in position for that. Jericho then gets a kendo stick and takes some shots at Lambert and then gets out a stapler and staples Lambert's balls in theory. And then basically we get a frog splash to Lambert from Jericho, which actually looked pretty good for a man of advanced age. And he pins,
I was expecting that to suck.
He pins Lambert and this match is over. I mean, lots of stuff happened, but I just thought this was okay. And I even heard you say it as we were watching it. It was kind of boring in stretches, right? I heard you say, this is boring at some point in it.
This is the one where my attention started to wane a bit.
So, yeah, because it was a lot of basic brawling and hitting each other with stuff for too long out on the floor for a very long stretch here. The MMA guys sort of disappeared, right? They were not involved for long stretches of this, nowhere to be seen even, which it makes sense because they don't know how to wrestle, but like it makes them look kind of silly because they just weren't involved in this. The MMA guys hit a couple of moves early on that didn't look terrible, and then they threw what they usually do, which is terrible worked punches, because they're used to punching with the intent to actually kill you, right?
Right,
so sometimes they struggle.
Works. I mean, and they either look good or they look like Shane McMahon.
Yep, and they clearly needed to be directed and coached like in real time as the match was happening, which is not what I want to see on a pay-per-view from a major wrestling company. This was more of the no DQ action that I don't care for, right? So this was like, I've got a water ski and a hockey stick and a toaster, and I'm just going to hit you with it. Isn't that funny and cool? Whereas to contrast that, the Super Click match was more like, watch me do a crazy move onto this ladder or chair, like something that most people could never do, whereas hitting someone with a toaster is very easy.
And knee pads, which is like something weird.
So this was not creative use of stuff. It was just like, here's a funny object,
what I expected,
and I'm going to hit you.
Let's be honest. It was a lot of mindless plunder.
Yes. So that is not as fun for me to watch as the stuff we saw in the Super Click match. I had pretty low expectations on this one. It mostly delivered. Like, do I think it was a bad match? Almost, maybe not quite, but I don't think it was good either. The low point of the show for me, I was not, it did not hold my interest, I'll put it that way. You?
Yeah, it definitely didn't hold my interest. I already mentioned that, but like, it was just, like I said, it was just kind of mindless plunder. It involves like a bunch of guys who are not on the roster and aren't even experiencing this. Not even like a Forbidden Door kind of thing.
No.
It's just not, like, it just wasn't great, and some of the weapon stuff was kind of dumb, like you said, and I don't know, there just wasn't enough here, and it just like, doesn't fit in here. Like, I think it was the misstep of the show.
And we just want this to end, hopefully. This was the result I was hoping in,
I don't
hope
see any need for continuation.
No, Lambert took the pin. He can
Other
go
than Men
away.
of the Year versus Proud and Powerful, I will take that.
So then the only, like, there was obviously promo review packages and things leading into some of these matches that I didn't cover. The only thing I will cover here is because it's kind of a new arrival, is that Tony Schiavone's on the ramp, and he introduces a new signing for AEW, and that is Jay Lethal from Ring of Honor, as Ring of Honor is about to go on hiatus at least, and maybe be gone forever, who knows. So he is going to be in AEW now. I am not personally a big fan of Jay Lethal. He's still capable of...
I didn't really care about this.
No, he may have some cool matches, and it looks like, based on this interaction, he's going to be facing Sammy on Wednesday, right? In his first match, I think.
Right, this, like, I've seen a lot of people, like, being like, oh my gosh, Jay Lethal, and I'm just like, I don't really care. Like, I've never really watched ROH that much, so that might be part of it,
He's good in ring. I just find his character work and acting is really... I'm very aware that he is acting at all times. It kind of bugs me. But anyways, he'll have some good matches, I'm sure. And so we now go to the main event, which is Hangman Adam Page challenging Kenny Omega for the AEW Championship, a story that has been sort of beautifully drawn out for how long would you say?
Oh, I would like...
Over a year?
I would say almost 2 years.
Right. So just really skillfully done. Just slowly, Paige is the reluctant hero, full of self-doubt, and Omega's trying to prey on that. And then Paige has now sort of gone away and come back more confident. He won't give in to Omega's mind games, even though Omega tries at every turn to sort of get inside Paige's head. So it's this idea that Paige is finally ready to take that step and become the champion, and Omega's doing everything he can to retain that belt. And again, an amazing babyface. Everybody loves Hangman Adam Page against just a fantastic heel. This is what Dynamite, what AEW keeps getting right, is they build strong characters and then you care about the match. It's amazing how that works.
Right. I have been looking forward to this for a while.
Yes. So this one right away has a big fight feel. The crowd is energized. Everybody's into this right away. Paige dominates early with some aggressive strikes and a corner clothesline before Don Callis, who returned on Dynamite this week. He grabs Hangman's foot briefly, so that allows Omega to take over off of that distraction. We get a slingshot crossbody by Paige to Omega on the floor a bit later. Paige suplexes Omega on the floor to follow up. Callis stomps up Paige on the floor. Omega slows the pace down for a little while here in the middle of this. We get a Hurricane Rana followed by the Terminator dive from Omega. Page gets his knees up on an Omega moonsault, and Omega runs into a big boot from the Hangman. You get a fallaway slam, kip up by Page, who looks super intense now. He hits a suicide dive and a huge moonsault off the top to the floor. We get a brainbuster by Page, a springboard Liger bomb out of the corner by Omega that looked pretty awesome.
That's pretty nice. Was it kind of a sunset flip from the side?
Yeah. Snapdragon by Omega, then another one. Snapdragon on the apron now by Omega, then a V-trigger as he is just laying in the offense on Page at this point. We get a release German by Page with a really dangerous landing. Omega landed pretty high on this one. It looked awesome. We then get a Tiger Driver by Omega that looked good. Avalanche Moonsault Slam, I guess, by Adam Page, which is just really impressive for a guy of his size and a guy of Omega's size to be able to pull that off. Hangman then rips the camera off the top of the ring post because he needs that to get his footing, uses it to jump from the ring post, hits a flying clothesline to Omega, who crashes through a table that's at ringside. Omega, a little bit later, can sort of sense the buckshot coming, so he drops to his knees to avoid it. We get a pop-up powerbomb by Page.
Which I feel like I haven't seen him do that in a bit. I mean, to be fair, I haven't seen him wrestle in a while.
Pulling out all the stops.
The ladder match, but...
The ref ends up taking the buckshot as Kenny Omega pulls him in front. So we have the ref is out. Callis ends up getting punched out by Page. Page then in turn avoids a belt shot from Omega and hits a dead eye. Aubrey Edwards runs down to make the count as the original ref is still out, but it's only a 2 count for a near fall that the crowd really reacted to. We then go back and forth between the two with knees, V-triggers, discus elbows, Kawada kicks by Omega. The Young Bucks then head to the ring, right? And this is basically because obviously they were all once a team, and Page spoke to them right and said that if they got involved, he was going to make their lives hell, or something strongly worded like that, basically. So the Bucks are there, sort of selling their indecision. Are they going to help Kenny Omega? Are they going to help Page? Are they just going to not get involved at all?
Right.
We then get a backdrop driver by Omega, but Page pops right back up and hits one of his own. The buckshot is countered into a nice looking V-trigger, but Page reverses the one-winged angel for a near fall.
A nice victory roll. It's pretty smooth.
It was. We get a buckshot to the back and then a second one to the front, and the Bucks sort of simply make eye contact with them for a second and just kind of nod at Page. And Hangman Adam Page,
I thought Matt looked really good too. He's just like, it's like they knew that this was like it, and yes. I thought that was really smooth.
So Page does pin Kenny Omega after the 2 buckshot lariats, and he becomes the new AEW World Champion, and the crowd goes bananas. The Dark Order come to the ramp. Page beckons them to get into the ring with him. They do. They all celebrate and hug each other, etc., and we have a new champion to end this show. The first 10 minutes of this was pretty standard stuff, as it was just kind of building. Not that it was bad. I don't mean standard in a bad way. But then things picked up considerably, I thought. Really physical back and forth match. I thought the match was very good, but it's not my match of the night, to be honest. I would say that still goes to the opener for me. This had some crazy high impact stuff, but the finish and the celebration afterward were not totally satisfying for me. I don't know quite what it is.
I think we need more.
And you didn't celebrate quite as much as I thought you would, because you were determined we were going to stay up and watch this right to the end because you wanted to see this.
I was also really adamant. I think they should have done the one-winged angel kick out. I think that would have been so cool.
And I'm kind of making it sound like this wasn't a good match, but it definitely was a very good to great match.
I think it was very good too, but I still think this should have gotten more time.
I do too.
I think this had epic match potential.
I do too.
And maybe that's on me for expecting that too much. Maybe I built this up in my head too much, but
maybe they know there's going to be a rematch and these guys are saving something, right? They're capable of that. Maybe they are.
And I trust that this will be revisited at some point in time, maybe after the Danielson match, which that should be epic too.
Yeah.
But I thought this was really good. I mean, it was the culmination of the storyline, at least for the time being, and I think it delivered on that pretty well.
Yeah, I think the opener was significantly better, but this was still a very good main event. Like, nothing to be disappointed about, I don't think. A fitting end to Omega's impressive run, and like the culmination of a really long, very good storyline. We got the payoff we wanted, right? The crowd can go home happy, saying they kind of got what they wanted here. Overall thoughts on this? Did you want to go first?
Sure.
Thoughts and a letter grade?
I thought the opener was awesome.
Me too.
I think that was really good. It was better than I think we were both expecting. So that's always better, right?
Yep.
The tag title match was pretty good. I mean, little messy finish aside, it was good. The Eliminator final was awesome. Great styles clash. The Falls Count match was fun as well, and they should have taken notes for to tweak the other one, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think that was good. I mean, I would have gone the other way in terms of result, but that's okay. The Cody Pack Black Andrade tag match was pretty good too. I think it could have been better, but I don't think anything was like really bad here. I think a lot of the matches were really good actually. Yep. And I just saw like place rank all the pay-per-views for AEW, and this is like already among the tops. So I think that's pretty good, and I think it's fair. Baker versus Conti is pretty good, and a great like introduction to the main title scene for Conti. I think that they did that well.
She passed the test, right?
Exactly. Yep. Punk versus Kingston was probably the shortest match, but
really good.
Still a good one. Yes. Yep. Then the Minneapolis Street Fight was a misstep for me. The only one here though, so I think that's okay. And then the main event was awesome. I've been waiting on this for a while, and it was awesome. And Hangman getting his moment was cool. And while I think we should get a big celebration, maybe we're saving that for a Dynamite segment.
Could be.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
So I really think that it was still good, and I hope that we get another match because A, now they're tied, and B, I think they can definitely do better.
Yep.
If I had to give it a grade, I would give it an A. I think it was really good. There was only like one misstep, and it wasn't like terrible.
No, I agree. It wasn't. The worst match wasn't terrible. I agree. So I thought this overall just a fantastic pay-per-view from AEW. That's 2 in a row, right? That have just been top to bottom, pretty amazing. The worst thing on the show that you're saying was the Inner Circle America's Top Team match, and it wasn't horrible, just boring compared to everything else that was on this show. The opener, again, my match of the night, I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and the next 3 matches were all excellent. Things slowed down a little bit, but again, still really good. Andrade Black Cody and Pac match and the women's title, both really good matches, just not quite as amazing as the ones before it. The main event was also excellent, but I had expected just a little bit more, which again, like you're saying, might have been unfair, but it was an excellent match as well. Nothing to really complain too much about. Just an amazing show from top to bottom, and it gets an easy A from me, like close to an A+. If the Inner Circle match was a little bit better and the women's match was more of like a blowaway match, it would have been an A+ even, but an A as it is now. I paid $50 for this show, and I easily feel like I got my money's worth. Like, I have zero complaints.
I think All Out, the last pay-per-view was also really good,
yes,
so I think they're on a roll. I mean, they don't have many of these, so they really do have to deliver.
They just build stories better, they have better characters, they have better in-ring action.
Right, and I think that's the benefit of not having so many pay-per-views. WWE has to
100%.
Put one out, like...
They're not special.
They have to pump them out every month, other than WrestleMania, because that goes without saying now,
and
but
it forces you to, like, compress storylines and speed them up, because, like, we've got to pay that off next month. Right. Whereas AEW can be like, we can wait 3 months to pay this off.
Guys can have a trilogy in the span of 3 months because there's 3 pay-per-views.
Right.
But I think AEW's pay-per-views, they all mean something. They're all special because you only get 4. You get one essentially every quarter of the year. So I think they usually deliver.
Yeah, it was. We got some excellent wrestling, the crowning of a new champion, and probably a new direction for the company with Page as the face of the company. I thought this was a great job by AEW, top to bottom. Great show and an easy A from me. Do you want to revisit our picks officially? I know we
Yes,
talked about them along the way, but let's see what
I think
happened.
I missed some anyway, so yeah, let's do that.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna go in order of the table, just because that's a little easier for me.
Yep.
So for the pre-show, we both got that right, which was the babyfaces Shida and Rosa. So that's 1-1. And then Pac and Cody versus Black and Andrade. I got that right. You did not. So that's 2-1 me. Super Click versus Christian and Jurassic Express. We both got that wrong. So it's still 2-1 me. We both picked MJF. So that is 3-2 me.
Yep.
We both picked the Inner Circle. 4-3 me. We both picked CM Punk. 5-4 me. 6-5 me for we both picked Lucha Bros. 7-6 me. We
So
both
you
picked
win.
Britt Baker. We both picked Bryan Danielson, and we both picked Hangman Page. But the main takeaway here is I was more right.
So sorry, which match was the difference for us?
The tag match with the Black and Andrade and the other two.
So great job. You win again. I think you won last time too, but I'll have to step up my game.
I don't remember. Yeah, you
remember
suck at these ones.
But anyways, I think that's going to bring us to the end of this review and this podcast episode. I will be back either tonight or tomorrow. I have watched Ring of Honor from this week, and I've got my notes ready to go. I just got to find time to sit down and review it, so I'll probably do that tomorrow. I don't think I'll do another one tonight. But if you enjoyed this podcast or didn't, we'd love to hear feedback either way, or if you just want to tell us what you thought of this pay-per-view as well. If you have any, if you want to agree with us, disagree with us, either way, let us know. We'll get back to you, maybe even mention you on a future episode. But that being said, I think we'll get out of here. Thanks to anyone who listened to any of this, and we hope to see you again soon. And until then, take care.